to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And after the Philadelphia Union get a 1-1 draw, lose in penalty kicks to Cruz Azul, they win their group in League's Cup and they face CF Montreal this Friday at 7:30 p.m. from Subaru Park. And if you guys haven't seen the weather reports yet, prepare to get wet. Wear your rain jacket, your raincoat, your rain boots, your rain pants, whatever you have to protect you from getting drenched. It's looking like it's going to be a heavy rain on Friday night in Chester. And we'll see. Will this become Seattle 2.0? I mean, that would be something, right? To have two just complete downpours, flooded field in the same season twice. Yeah, that would be something interesting. But yeah, it's always memorable seeing these games and just being at the stadium for these type of games. Lots of thunderstorms are calling. So, I mean, hopefully this game doesn't get postponed. It's going to be windy as well. But these games are always just so memorable because, I don't know, you go in there expecting there to be delays, and you go into the stadium trying to make the most of the situation. And the Seattle game this season, I mean, we watched, 6 minutes before that game was canceled, just watching the ball barely move because the field couldn't drain the water fast enough. We had players slipping and sliding, and yeah, that's enjoyable for us, but not so much for the players. And yeah, it doesn't give you the greatest quality of soccer, but yeah, regardless, it's going to be a wet one this Friday, and hopefully you guys are ready for that. But yeah, it's been some time now since the game happened against Cruz Azul, and I think now is probably a good time to talk about that, talk about some news. And there's a lot of news that has happened around MLS the last couple of days, and there's also a lot of Philadelphia Union news as well that I want to focus on. So we won't talk about all the news points this episode, maybe over the weekend or Saturday because the game's on Friday. So yeah, I mean, depending on how late I get back from Subaru Park on Friday, could potentially have a new podcast on Saturday, definitely Sunday, going to the Union 2 game on Saturday as well to watch them play Chicago, I believe it is. But yeah, it's a busy weekend here in Chester. If you guys are going to both games, a lot of news to talk about in regards to the Philadelphia Union. We'll also give my thoughts on the game against Cruz Azul, 3 stars, blunder of the week, and there's a lot of great nominations for blunder of the week, but unfortunately, as you guys know, only one can win. So without further ado, let's get straight into the news. So let's go ahead and talk about Atlanta United. They've made a big splash. I'm sure you guys have already seen this, but they've acquired Alexy Miranchuk from Serie A side Atalanta for $13 million. And this is great. You have a deal between Atlanta and Atalanta. Finally, these two clubs have done business, and it's for a player that's 28 years old. He had 13 goals, 19 assists, and 98 appearances with Atalanta. Miranchuk has 45 appearances with the Russian national team. He has 7 goals. Last season, he won the Europa League with Atalanta. And Atlanta, I'm glad I didn't say Atalanta there. They have a lot of money to spend this season to reinforce their squad. They're currently 1 point ahead of the Philadelphia Union in the final spot in the playoffs in MLS play. And we'll see. We'll see with how many days left? 7 days. 7 days left in the transfer window before it closes in MLS. We'll see if Atlanta stays busy with bringing in more players. We'll see if clubs continue to stay busy because, like I said, there's a lot of deals that are happening pretty constantly here the last couple of days in MLS, and we just don't have time to speak about them all here on the podcast. So that's the biggest one that I want to highlight. I know there's a bigger one with LA Galaxy officially getting Marco Reus. We'll talk about that probably over the weekend once it gets announced by LA Galaxy. But we'll go ahead and talk about all these Philadelphia Union moves. And there's one move that was confirmed by the Union that started a lot of drama, a lot of complaining by fans that I'm not quite sure why fans are upset. And That is, the Philadelphia Union acquired $75,000 in GAM for 2025 from St. Louis City in exchange for a 2024 international roster slot. The Union, they have one international roster spot open. Baribo, Macania, Bueno, Ngabo, and Semla are the 5 players taking up those international roster slots. And again, if you guys are new to the show, new to MLS rules, each team every single season starts with 8. Now, teams can accumulate more by trades, or they can trade away spots for money. In this case, GAM. That's what the Union did. They weren't going to use their 6th spot. They already had traded some away this season. Notably, the trade between them and Nashville SC that resulted in the Union getting $350,000 in GAM for 2025. And so Nashville got a 2024 international roster slot and a 2025 one, which means the Union will only have 7 next season, which shouldn't be a problem. You would imagine that somebody like Jesus Bueno, Ty Baribo, Oliver Zemler, who's been in the country for a while, whether it be in college, whether that be with Louisville City in the USL, you would expect those type of players to be in line to get a green card for next year, which would definitely open up a lot more spots for the Union to bring in international players that don't have green cards if they so choose. But a lot of fans were complaining, oh, why would you trade away this slot, especially for $75,000 this year in GAM? Well, I mean, there's a big explanation why they would do that. It's more than halfway through the season. There's, 9 games left in MLS play? So you're getting $75,000 for a slot that's only going to be useful for 9 games for St. Louis. And then next year, St. Louis are going to have to figure out how to open up slots, whether players get green cards, whether they go out and trade for more slots for 2025. So you're getting $75,000 for a slot that you weren't going to use at all. And why not? Why not go and make that trade? And then, like I mentioned, you had that trade earlier this season with Nashville, which now has given you an extra $425,000 in GAM. And there's a couple ways you can look at this, that the Union are preparing for potentially a big signing period in the winter. We've had Ernst Tanner say on the Duke podcast that, typically the winter is our big month, not so much the summertime. Yes, that's how it is all around the world where, teams are in preseason. And so there's a lot of movement between clubs, not so much in MLS because the transfer window opens up in July, closes August 14th. And you don't have too much time to go and make deals and whatnot. And you see clubs all the time just go in the wintertime, and that's when they get their business done. And usually we see whenever clubs make moves in the summertime, those players don't really hit the ground running right away. The only player I can think of in recent time was obviously Lionel Messi, but a better example I think would be Chico Arango with LAFC a few seasons ago. He scored 13 goals in the second half of the season, I believe it was, for them, and he won Newcomer of the Year for only being in the league for half a season. But not many players hit the ground running. We saw how long it took Daniel Gazdag to adjust to the league, and then his following season, was fantastic for the Union. But typically that's how it is. Players come to a new league. They got to get used to the travel. They got to get used to the weather. They got to get used to all the different variables that make MLS. And it takes some players longer than others. And so why not? Why not go out and get this money for 2025 in the wintertime when teams are more active? You're going to do more business. I think that's a fantastic piece of business that the Union got from St. Louis, from Nashville. And whether you use this GAM for bringing in more players, whether you use it for contract extensions, for buying down players, there's a lot you can do with this money. And I think Ernst Tanner is definitely cooking up something. Like I said, maybe the Union go in next season and spend that money on even more players. And I know fans are saying, well, we want players now. We're in a current season right now. We're out of the playoffs. We need reinforcements. And I get that 100%. I agree that this squad needs a little bit more. But we've seen the club turn around once Andre Blake got healthy, once Jose Martinez came back from Copa America. Well, the Union are in a 4-game stretch where they haven't lost a game. And that's fantastic. Man, again, it's small sample sizes, but it's something you can build off of. And speaking of players joining, Jose Nunez, friend of the show, is reporting that midfielder Danley Jean Jacques is joining the Philadelphia Union from FC Metz in Ligue 2 in France. He's 24 years old, 69 appearances with Metz, 0 goals, 3 assists, and 5,279 minutes played. Last year with Metz, when they were in Ligue 1, they got relegated this season. He made 36 appearances, 31 starts, and played 2,841 minutes. His market value is a little bit over $2 million. Metz, like I mentioned, were relegated this season. I don't expect the Union to pay $2 million for him. I don't expect them to pay anywhere close because France is a league that struggles with revenue. They're a league that struggles to see teams stay afloat. We saw with Bordeaux, they've had to close up shop. They're in the third division, I believe it is now. Every single player that was on their roster, now they're gone. They had to rip up their contracts just because they couldn't afford to pay anybody anymore. And there was rumors that Liverpool or I should say FSG, my apologies, were looking to buy Bordeaux to keep them afloat. The deal fell through and never got accomplished, and now we see Bordeaux in a terrible situation. A lot of clubs in France are like that, and you hear Ernst Tanner say a lot of times that he's aware of the market in Europe. A lot of teams struggle financially year to year, and COVID really put a hurt on a lot of teams, and some clubs just really haven't been able to recover from that. So I would not expect the Union to pay his $2 million value just because you're a club that got relegated and you have no say. You have no negotiating power when you're a club that's playing in League 2, where you're going to have to pay your players less, where the money you're going to bring in is going to be less. And so I think this is a great opportunity for the Union to take advantage of a player that's not even entered his prime yet. He's just getting there. And I saw a lot of fans, saying, well, it says he plays as a center defensive midfielder on transfer market, and this must mean that Jose Martinez is out. This must be that maybe another player is out at the club. I don't think necessarily that. And this is why. Jose Martinez, number one, is 30 years old, and yes, he talked to Jose Nunez about his desire to play in Europe, but keep in mind, he's 30 years old, and at that age, in my opinion, I think it's a little bit too late in his career to make a move to a top 5 league in Europe. I mean, if you're going to make that move, you're there a year, 2 years at most before you're moving to a lesser league. And Jose Martinez, to his credit, never said, I want to play in a top 5 league. He said he wanted to play in Europe. So, I mean, there's plenty of leagues that he could potentially go to, but I don't think this means that, the Union are selling Jose Martinez. I don't at all. And here's why. With the Union playing the 4-4-2, and we have a clip we'll play earlier about Jim Curtin saying, the 4-4-2 diamond is our best formation. That is what we do best. You have 4 midfielders. Those guys, with all the pressing, all the running you require of them, you're going to need reinforcements. You're going to need multiple players that you can trust off that bench. And, whether Danley is going to be starting, whether he's coming off the bench, that's exactly what the Union need. They need a player that can be quick in transition, a player with pace, a player that's always looking to go forward, a player that's going to provide you defensive cover, especially if you're going to go with Jack McGlynn and Kai Wagner, 2 more offensive players on the left side of the field. Kai Wagner, fantastic defensively. Jack McGlynn, not so much, but both players like to go forward. And so now if you add Danley into the starting lineup, you add Jose Martinez in the starting lineup, well, both players, they'll drop back and play defense. They'll win the ball back for you, and they'll look to go on quick in transitions. Jose Martinez, fantastic against Cruz Azul in those transition moments. I mean, we saw so many diagonal passes by him in this game, and that's what he does best. It's one of his most underrated stats in his playing style is just that quick ball out wide, always looking to go forward. And now you add another player in Danely Jean Jacques. I think that's fantastic, and especially a player that has a $2 million value. You're not paying $2 million at all. I can guarantee you the Union are not paying that. Yes, he had a long contract with Metz, but they had no negotiating power after they got relegated. And so now you look into a player that's also played for the Haitian national team, a player with international experience. Yes, CONCACAF, not the greatest league. And again, we'll talk about that here in a bit too in regards to the USA and the Olympics. But this is a fantastic piece of business, and we'll see if the Union are going to be able to get the third rumored signing over the line. If they do, I think Union fans will be very, very happy with this window. But there might still be some fans that say, well, we've seen the Union in the past, 2021. They bring in some players, don't really give them a chance. And, well, what's the point of buying players if Jim Curtin's not going to play them? Hey, look, I hear you, but you guys were complaining that the Union weren't doing anything, and now they go out and make some signings. And now it's up to Jim Curtin and this coaching staff to evaluate these players and get them fitting into the squad. We've already seen Sam Adeniran make 3 appearances with the Union now so far since being acquired from St. Louis City. So, look, Sam's been given a chance, and you best believe once the Union make more additions, Jim Curtin's definitely going to look at them and say, hey, look, go be our difference maker. Go ahead and help us push us over the line, get us back into the playoffs, and help us get far into League's Cup. Speaking of deals getting over the line, the Philadelphia Union have announced that they have signed Philadelphia Union 2 midfielder and US YNT player CJ Olney to a contract as a homegrown player through 2028 with an option for the 2029 season. CJ, 17 years old, joined the Union Academy in 2021, originally from Chicago. Since joining Union 2, Olney has started 36 out of his 39 appearances and has scored 8 goals and registered 16 assists. He has 2 appearances with the U.S. Youth National Team U19s. So this is a player that's only 17 years old, and he's playing up with the national team. He's a player that hadn't spent a lot of time in the academy. He's a player that had a Union 2 contract and got a first-team contract pretty quickly this season. He's a player that likes to play forward. He's a player that, again, is 17 years old and has to grow into his body, a little bit like Brendan Aronson at the time, where you saw the talent, but easily push him off the ball. And so the Union locked down another homegrown signing. This is the 5th homegrown signing this season that ties the 2021 class for the most homegrown sign in a single season. Remember that 21 class had Brendan Craig, Quinn Sullivan, Nate Harriel, Jack McGlynn, and Paxton Aronson. That's a fantastic class. And you look at this one for this season, you have Nick Periano, you have Andrew Rick, Kevin Sullivan, CJ Olney, and David Vasquez. So will that class live up to the one in 2021? We shall see, but I think Kevin Sullivan alone probably wins it for this class. But you don't know until you see those players go out there and play. And I do think it's interesting that, you know, we're seeing the academy now consistently tuning out players. And we've seen 5 signings this season. All of them have been minus Nick Periano during the season. And that's a credit to these players for, yes, thrown into a little bit unfair situations with call-ups, with injuries. And so they ran out of short-term contracts and the Union were forced to give them homegrown deals. But it's not like they weren't deserving of those deals. They were definitely going to get those deals, maybe a little bit faster than what they typically would have got. But it's great piece of business by the Union, just continuing to invest into the academy, giving academy kids opportunities, watching them develop with Union 2, and, you know, hopefully one day turn into a Brendan Aronson, into a Mark McKenzie, into a Quinn Sullivan, a Jack McGlynn, and so on and so on. And now the next step, I believe, for the Union is to sell these kids on a consistent basis. And I know that doesn't sit well with some of the fan base, but I don't think that's a bad thing for MLS. And I will die on that hill. I have no problems whatsoever with MLS being a selling league. I have no problems whatsoever with the Union being a selling team. Because I said this before in a podcast, majority of the leagues around the world are selling leagues. The only one you can argue that isn't is the Premier League. But even your Bundesliga, your La Liga, your Ligue 1 in French, Serie A, they're all selling to who? The Premier League. And so why fans get so upset? And yes, you want to see some of these players stick around a little bit longer, like a Paxton Aronson. But at the same time, you know, when you get an offer that's too good to turn down, you got to accept it. And so, yes, I want to see players get sold more consistently, which, again, I know not everybody's going to agree with that take, but the more that you get these guys coming out of the academy, going through Union 2 to the first team, getting sold to Europe, because again, it's all these players' dreams to play in Europe, you're going to get more players wanting to sign for the Union's academy and saying, hey, look at how fast David Vasquez went through the system. Look how fast Andrew Rick went, how fast CJ Olney went. I want to be the next one. And of course, everybody's going to look at Kevin Sullivan and be like, I want to be just like Kevin Sullivan. Because don't we all want to be like Kevin Sullivan, getting paid $500,000 this season and going to earn the club over $5 million, going to sign for one of the best teams in the world in Man City. But the truth is, and we all know this, that it's going to be a long time before the Union get another Kevin Sullivan. But if you can consistently, like I said, get players out of the academy into the first team after a couple seasons, sell them, you're gonna start cooking. And so, a great deal for the Union to get done with CJ Olney, well-deserved contract extension. And so we talked about it with CONCACAF about 5 minutes ago. The U.S. fall to Morocco 4-0 at the Olympics. And I was having this conversation a couple of days ago where the U.S. looked great against New Zealand. They looked great against Guinea, but they struggled. They struggled against France. Well, I'd argue they were probably in that game for 60 minutes, and then France's quality took over. And Morocco, the U.S. weren't in that game at all. And the U.S. are hindered. They are hindered by being in CONCACAF, playing against these weak oppositions. Look, we saw the U20s beat Jamaica a few weeks ago, 9-0. Who's that helping? Your egos, maybe. But you can't tell me that these players are developing better than they would if they're playing against better opposition. So what? I mean, it's like a training session, putting up 9 goals. And it sucks for the U.S. that they're in such a weak federation where playing against Mexico, against, say, Honduras and El Salvador doesn't really do them any good. And I get why fans are so upset. I'm upset too that the U.S. didn't do well in Copa America, because that was your chance to play against meaningful opponents. And you failed it. You failed at it. And I get it. The U.S. can't help that they're in North America. They can't help that they're in CONCACAF. And it's really hard with all these different competitions, all these different tournaments around the world to schedule meaningful games against top opponents. And that's the only way you get better, is playing against the best. You're not going to get better playing against Jamaica, against Mexico, who have been horrible the last couple of years. At a time, Mexico was great. Costa Rica, I'd argue, was really good. Panama was good, but we've seen those countries really lose star players, and they haven't been able to replace those star players. And the U.S. just continue to beat up on teams, and who's that helping? And so a little bit of that shows at the Olympics against Morocco, against France. Nate Harriel, he started 4 out of 4 games. Jack McGlynn, he had 1 start, appeared in all 4 games. He had 1 assist. Former Philadelphia Union player Paxton Aronson started all 4 games, 1 goal, 1 assist. Nate Harriel, I think, rough game against Morocco, but had a really good showing with the U.S. A really, really good showing. And this kid's only going to continue to get better. The sky's the limit for him, honestly. He's a player who had chances to score against the Olympics. He shut down some players. And I thought against France, even though the U.S. lost, I thought he was the U.S.'s best player in that game. Morocco, yes, he struggled. He struggled pretty bad against Morocco. But against France, where they were the host nation, and the opening game where he was locked in from the first minute until the end of the game. Fantastic tournament by Nate Harriel overall, and one game's not going to define him. One game isn't what scouts should look at and say, yep, this kid's not worth anything. No, absolutely not. And they're going to look at his good moments. They're going to look at the players that he's defended the last couple of years in MLS. He's gone against some top wingers, top strikers when he's had to fill in as center back. And I think Nate Harriel did himself proud. He did the Philadelphia Union community proud. He did Florida proud. He did his family proud. Fantastic tournament. Jack McGlynn, again, 1 start, appeared in all 4 games, 1 assist, and he struggled against Morocco too, especially when Morocco were pressing the U.S. When they were forcing the U.S. to press him, the weak link, the weak side of the field was Jack McGlynn's, because he wasn't giving the press that Gianluca Busio was giving you earlier in the tournament, and the URI struggled not having him. Yes, the passing range, the vision by Jack McGlynn, that's unmatched, and it's always been, defensively, what do you do for me? And it's been not much, but I don't think, that game's going to discourage teams from saying, yeah, we don't want McGlynn. He's a fantastic player, and he had a fantastic tournament. Paxton Aronson, I thought he was great all tournament. And again, going back to my point about the Union selling players, you want to develop these kids, get them playing in these type of tournaments and showing up for their nation. And I don't think the Olympics hurt Nate Harriel or Jack McGlynn's chances of getting sold in the future. I think, if anything, it got more eyes on them. And they're going to look at the good moments. They're going to look at the bad moments. But there was more good moments than bad in this tournament for both players. And we'll see how Jim Curtin gets them back into the squad this Friday against CF Montreal. Olivier Baizu has been playing really good soccer the last 4 games. But Nate Harriel, before he left, was also playing great. So Jim Curtin, once again, has a tough decision to make. We'll see what he goes with on Friday against Montreal. Does he throw Jack McGlynn back into the starting lineup? Leon Flock's been playing great. Alejandro Bedoya has been all right when he's been playing. So again, choices for Jim Curtin, but you get your full squad back, and it's a good problem for Jim Curtin to have, to decide, okay, who gets into the squad for this game, and then you have good players coming off the bench when you need to make a difference. But those are my thoughts. Those are the news points I want to bring up. Long segment, I know. Let's go ahead and talk about that game, though. Philadelphia Union versus Cruz Azul. Like we mentioned, that game ended 1-1. The Union fall in penalty kicks by a score of 5-3. And I thought it was really, really obvious that the Union were struggling in this game early on against Cruz Azul. Cruz Azul's pressing, the quick passing, was causing lots of issues for the Union. The Union were outshot 12-1 in the first half. The possession was 64-36 to Cruz Azul. The Union only completed 69% of their passes in the first half. And the Union very fortunate to get out of that half only down by 1-0. Because it should have been. It absolutely should have been multiple goals by Cruz Azul. You had Gutierrez who hit the post. You had the press in the 28th minute by Cruz Azul that forced a bad pass by Quinn Sullivan. Cruz Azul intercepted. They have a chance, and great defensive effort by Damion Lowe, by Olivier Baizu to stuff out any chance, and it eventually leads to Andre Blake following the ball to make an easy save. But yeah, there was moments definitely in the first half where you're like, the Union can't get anything going. There was a chance in the 32nd minute with Mikael Uhr heads the ball wide. The play, even if Uhr would have scored, would have been ruled off. Ty Baribo, they said, was offsides. Sent in a fantastic cross, by the way. I mean, it was a great combination play between Daniel Gazdag, Ty Baribo, and Mikael Uhr. And this is what you want to see, honestly, with the Union. You want to see the press cause issues. And that's exactly what happened. The Union win the ball back. It goes into Quinn Sullivan, into Ty Baribo. Ty Baribo with a great cross into Mikael Uhr, and somehow he misses wide. And Daniel Gazag's on the near post, tries to deflect this, but can't find a way to put the head in the back of the net. And the goal that the Union concede, it's a really, really well-worked goal by Rotondi, the left wing back for Cruz Azul in this match. We'll talk about that goal here in a little bit, though, because Jim Curtin compared that goal to some of the goals that the Union were conceding a few months ago. And I won't spoil anything, but yeah, Jim Curtin did talk about that goal, praise Cruz Azul for it. But I think all in all, you could be happy with the way that the Union did in this game. Yes, overall they get outshot 17-3. You saw the Union really struggle. Really, really, really struggle in the first half. The referee wasn't great. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the referee. We all know wasn't his greatest performance for either team. Jim Curtin brings up the referee and says, yeah, wasn't his greatest performance. We know that. But again, if you're finding opportunities to blame the referee and that's all you have, then that tells you all you need to know about how you approach the game. You obviously left it in the referee's hand, which if you're leaving results in the referee's hand, then you didn't deserve the win. And to the Union's credit, they fought. They fought hard to get an equalizing goal late in this game by Daniel Gazdag. Again, we'll talk about that play specifically here in a bit. I thought, it was interesting. Kyle Olney asked me, is this a game that Damion Lowe should start? I said no at the time, which, by the way, that's, I guess, another point I should have brought up. Fans are speculating because of a cryptic message on social media that Damion Lowe is talking about being unhappy, wanting to go someplace where you're appreciated. He was in practice when I went on Saturday, obviously started this game. And Kyle asked me, he said, should Damion Lowe start this game? I said, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know if Damion Lowe should start. I don't see why you don't go with Jacob Glesnes and Jack Elliott. They're your two best center backs. When they're on, they're on. And they're comfortable having Andre Blake behind them. They're taking more risks together, just like they've done in years past. But no, Jim Curtin, like we've seen against CONCACAF opposition, he goes with Damion Lowe, and I can't say that I blame him. You're going with your fastest center back. You're going with a player that has CONCACAF experience. You're going with a player that is okay with antics of the opposition, knows how to get under the skin of the opposition, and there's nothing wrong with that. And yes, Damion Lowe definitely did at times get the Cruz Azul players angry. He got a yellow card in this game too, by the way. And we'll talk about Damion a little bit later on in the show. I think you guys all know what blunder of the week is going to be. But yeah, Jacob Glesnes, it was his first game since the 16th of March against Austin that he hadn't started in. He's played since that moment against Austin where he didn't feature. He's played a consecutive 2,019 minutes, finally gets a well-deserved break, and I think that's what Jim Curtin struggled with. I mean, he would say the same thing. He has said the same thing. They should have found moments where, okay, rotate the center backs a little bit more, but Jim talks about, that's the one area of the field where he doesn't want to mess with is your back line. And I can't say that I blame him because, again, I'm repeating myself now for the second or third time in the last month where it starts with the spine of the team. You really don't want to make changes to your goalkeeper, your two center backs, and your defensive midfielder. Everywhere else you can afford to make changes, but the spine of the team, you want to keep that intact. And yeah, I get it. I get why you like playing Jacob Glesnes all the time. Him and Jack Elliott have the best chemistry with each other. Yes, you can rely on Jacob Glesnes. The last couple of years has been one of the best, if not the best center back in MLS. And it's hard to take him out of your lineup. But at the same time, too, you play him too much, you risk the chance of injury reoccurring. And so nice to see Jacob get a well-deserved break. Yes, he did come off the bench in this game to help close things out. But overall, right call by Jim Curtin, I would say. This was, I think, also telling where the Union struggled in the first half with Cruz Azul's press. Cruz Azul in the second half really struggled with the Union's press. The Union's press caused issues. Cruz Azul's fitness level started to wear out in the second half. And keep in mind, this was only their sixth game this season. They played 4 in Liga MX, and they've played 2 now in Leagues Cup. So with their season just starting, they're not at the fitness levels where they are when the Liga MX teams are dominating in CONCACAF Champions Cup. And the one thing I would say about Leagues Cup is, yes, I know MLS teams are dominating right now. They're getting fantastic results against Liga MX. But would that be the case if some of these games were played in Mexico? I don't think so. Look no farther than what happened this season in CONCACAF Champions Cup. I mean, that's pretty much the norm every single season. Anytime MLS teams go down to Mexico, they struggle for a numerous amount of reasons. And so I do think results would be different for a Leagues Cup if games were played down in Mexico. And yes, MLS teams, fans make a lot of excuses why their teams don't advance that far in CONCACAF Champions Cup because of fitness levels. And now it's the same thing with Liga MX fans. And you saw that against Cruz Azul. Started this game on fire. Union cannot keep up with the pace of the game. But in the second half, to the Union's credit, better fitness levels, the press causes issues. It's how you get your goal with Daniel Gazdag. We'll talk about that here in a bit. Yeah, much better second half by the Union. That just that consistent press, really tiring Cruz Azul out. And then you eventually lose 5-3 on penalties. Gazdag had his penalty saved, took the first one for the Union. Union converted the rest with, let's see if I remember, with Jack Elliott, fantastic penalty, with Jose Martinez, and then with Sam Adeniran. Really good penalties from all three of those players. Unfortunate for Daniel Gazdag to have his penalty saved, which we know is pretty much automatic. But I was mentioning the press of the Union. That's how the Union got the goal against Cruz Azul. So might as well play the clip from Jim Curtin talking about that. It's where Quinn Sullivan, Sam Adeniran, they're both pressing. They force a mistake, and Daniel Gazlag's there to put the ball in the back of the net. And this is what Jim Curtin had to say.
The goal that you talk of, it shows the character, the grit, the togetherness of the group. I'll just say it nicely. Some decisions and some things went against us tonight. In particular, Ty's play, where I thought it was a PK and a red card, but the players stuck with things and, got a deserved goal. Again, that's a really talented team. To win this group is something that we can be proud of and build on. Obviously, you want to win in PKs when you get there, but at the same time, we did our job by getting the point and winning the group. So Sam did a great job coming into the game. You see some of his qualities. It's only going to get better and better as he gets more used to his teammates, for sure. But overall, I thought him and Leon coming off the bench did a great job as well. And the biggest thing, the plays people always forget are the save that Dre makes, to keep it from going to 2-0. Those are the ones we all forget about, but that keeps it still a game. And again, the players showed a ton of heart, grit, won some big tackles. It was a great atmosphere, great intensity in the game. And overall, again, really proud of the group for the way they stuck together.
Yeah, and we're talking about Andre Blake here in a little bit. I know Jim Curtin mentioned him there. But Sam Adeniran has been great for the Union. Yes, I know he hasn't had any goals yet for the club, no assists. He's gotten opportunities to score, hasn't been able to capitalize on those chances. But the biggest thing about him is his pressing. And again, you read reports in St. Louis where the old manager, Bradley Coronel, called out his work rate, saying it wasn't up to par. And I don't know what Coronel was seeing. I wasn't watching Sam Adeniran when he was with St. Louis, so I don't know how true that was. He's calling him out in practice, putting him to train with the second team. But ever since, he's been here in Philadelphia, he's working his tail off, and I saw it too firsthand when I went out to practice on Saturday. He's got a good shot on him, good movement, especially for a big guy. He's really good with the ball at his feet, taking players on 1v1, can finish with the inside and the outside of his foot. He's a player that looks like he's playing with a lot of freedom, a lot of just, happiness to his game. He's a player that Jim Curtin said is by far the fastest player on the team. He's a player that's going to win you a lot of aerial duels, a lot of hold-up play. And that's why I thought Jim Curtin probably should have started him this game over Mikhail Uhre because of his hold-up play. I thought the Union could have used that. But I will give Jim Curtin credit. I think he did get it right. Because if you're looking for hold-up play in this game where Cruz Azul is making it very, very fast, they're hitting you with their press, they're hitting you with quick passing, then looking for Sam to use him with hold-up plays probably not going to work in this game. So you're looking at a player like Mikhail Uhre who's going to go north to south, just run out the back line, and you play those long balls over the top. Yes, Sam Adeniran can do the same thing, but Mikhail is more suited for that in the system just because he's been with the team for the last couple of years. He knows how the Union want to play in the diamond. And so I was a little bit confused, absolutely, with Sam not getting the start. But Jim Curtin got his decisions right. Props to Jim Curtin for that. And Sam Adeniran shows that Jim Curtin got it right with the press, with Quinn Sullivan's press, with the pass to Quinn Sullivan, who passes it to Daniel Gazdag. It was Quinn Sullivan, I believe, who got the assist, right? Yeah, it was. Definitely, I'm watching right here. Yeah, Quinn Sullivan's one who played the ball in, goalie spills it, and Daniel Gazag's there to clean up the loose ball. And, it's a good first touch, and then it's a good finish there where Gazdag doesn't have a lot to shoot at, but it's the press by the Union. And that's what we've come to know the last, I don't know, since 2019, since Ernst Tenner took over as sporting director. We've seen this team press so much. And yes, the team presses a lot different than they did in 2020, 2021, than they do currently. But you know what? The identity's still there. The same philosophy is still there. Press. We're going to play direct. We're going to outwork teams without the ball. We're going to make them suffer. And that's exactly what you saw the Union do in this game. In the second half, particularly. Defensive breakdowns, though, if we want to focus on a negative, there was a defensive breakdown by the Union on Cruz Azul's goal. And Jim Curtin talked about that play and actually tried to spin it in a positive manner and say, hats off to Cruz Azul. And this is what he had to say on that goal.
They scored a really good goal, a very good goal, and they broke us down. And sometimes I can live with a goal that you concede where you go, okay, they made 5 great plays on that goal, and you can kind of tip your cap and say, we can live with that. What we've done a good job of in recent weeks as a team is we've eliminated the silly goals where we're conceding from almost nothing and everything was kind of going against us. So, yes, Cruz Azul earned their goal. We showed character to stay in the game. Like I said, had some chances in the second half.
Yeah, and so Cruz Azul have the ball in their own half. They play it out right, the Union's left side of the field, which forces Kai Wagner to step. And so you have Daniel Gazdag tracking back, one of the midfielders isn't able to catch up to his guy, so it's a simple pass in. The defense all slots over left because Kai Wagner steps out. And so you have Damion Lowe essentially playing as a left back. You have Olivier Bizer and Jack Elliott as your 2 center backs, which then leaves Rotondi wide open on your right-hand side, the left-hand side of the field. But it's the pass into the midfield, into Giacomakis, into Gutierrez, who was Jose Martinez's guy. Jose Martinez gives up on the play. He's watching Daniel Gazdag try to win this play back, and he leaves Gutierrez wide open. And you have Jack Elliott, who has to contain the ball, and so he's keeping the attacker in front of him. Bizo is keeping Giacomakis in front of him. But then you have a free runner in Gutierrez and Rotondi, who scores the goals wide open on the right-hand side of the field. And, a lot went wrong on this play for the Union. I have no issues whatsoever with Kai Wagner stepping. The Union take risk, and then that forces your defense to slide over. We see this all the time with Union. Sometimes they win the ball, sometimes they don't. But what's inexcusable is, your midfielders, if they're not tracking. Daniel Gazdag, yes, he lets his midfielder in front of him, but he's still tracking this play all the way back into his 18-yard box. It's Jose Martinez who isn't tracking Gutierrez. He's got to be on him because it's just a simple flick from Giacomakis into Gutierrez, who then finds Rotondi wide open on the right-hand side, which should have been Olivier Bizer's guy. It's not his fault whatsoever because of Kai Wagner stepping out. So, again, you slide your whole defense over left. But this doesn't happen, if Jose Martinez just tracks. Because if Jose tracks, then you could have Olivier Bizer slide over right on Rotondi. You can have Gutierrez being marked by Jose Martinez. You can have Jack Elliott marking Giacomakis. Now you have 1v1 defending, and now you're relying on your guys to win in 1v1 battles. But not in situations where you let players stay wide open. It's a fantastic finish by Rotondi. Nothing Andre Blake can do, and that's why Jim Curtin says you can tip your cap, because it was a really well-worked goal, good passing, good movement off the ball. But this play could have been avoided if there was tracking by the Union. And so that's where my issue lies personally with Jose Martinez just not tracking on this play. And we've seen moments like that this season where, it's just been lazy defensively. And I really do hate bringing up those moments where he plays, 90% of the match. But it's just these little moments in this game. It's like, you've got to be on from the first minute to the last minute. And especially against great opposition like Cruz Azul. One little mistake, they're going to make you pay for it. And yes, I said it at the beginning. The Union should have went down by multiple goals in the first half. Very, very fortunate they didn't. Cruz Azul took advantage of a lot of opportunities. But good stuff by the Union. And One thing that I've noticed too is Jim Curtin talked about the saves earlier with Andre Blake. Those moments get overshadowed. The Union are 3-0-1 with Blake returning from injury. 2 clean sheets, only 2 goals allowed. He has 8 saves in his last 4 games. 2 of those games, he didn't have to make a save, but he had 5 saves against Cruz Azul. And the Union defensively were forcing a lot of shots outside the 18-yard box. They weren't giving Cruz Azul any opportunities really inside that 18-yard box, which is great defensively by the Union. Yes, Cruz Azul were setting the tempo very fast, but the Union were forcing them to take their shots, and defensively, they have themselves in great positions. Andre Blake, able to see everything develop in front of him, is able to see the ball all the way through. And you have Andre Blake just constantly communicating. And Jim Curtin said it, those saves, they get overlooked all the time. And it's insane to me. I don't think people around the league realize how good Andre Blake is. Look no further than this season when Andre Blake was in goal, when he wasn't. This guy is, you can make the argument, the greatest Philadelphia Union player of all time. In my opinion, I think it's between him and Kai Wagner. Kai Wagner continues to show why he's the best left back in the league, and I think he'll go down as one of the best players to play in MLS all time. He's just that great offensively, but defensively too. He's taken such great strides the last couple of years. Mind-blowing to me that Germany won't even take a look at him when they don't have a left back. And yeah, I think they'd probably get scolded in the media by the fans if they went with a player playing in MLS. But I do think that he's playing at a very, very, very high level, playing at a level that's higher than MLS, higher than CONCACAF Champions Cup, higher than Leagues Cup. Union very fortunate to have Kai Wagner, but very fortunate to have Andre Blake too. And Andre Blake, when he decides to hang him up, he'll go down as one of the greatest goalkeepers ever to play in this league, one of the greatest players to play in this league in general. And the Union are very, very fortunate to have him back. And, the Union haven't been great defensively the last few years, but they've looked great defensively because of Andre Blake. When the defense gets beat, well, they have Andre Blake back there to make them look good, to keep those clean sheets, to keep the score close. And that defense owes a lot to Andre Blake, which they'd be the first to tell you that too, by the way. They know how much Andre Blake means to this team. Getting Andre Blake back means good things for this club. And he's been fantastic, like I mentioned, the last 4 games. Where would this team be without Andre Blake? Well, you don't have to look much further than the 10-game run the Union were on without a win. That's where the Union would be, in my opinion. And so credit to the Union's defense for forcing a lot of bad shots by Cruz Azul, forcing a lot of shots from outside the 18-yard box, really making things tight for them inside that box to get crosses off, to get free headers, to get shots off, to get quick combination play in there. Union, for the most part, I thought were great, even though they suffered a little bit. They suffered on that goal that Cruz Azul scored. But, tip the cap to them defensively. 2 clean sheets in the last 4 games. Really, really good stuff. Only 2 goals allowed. Not bad. And then I mentioned it. Jim Curtin talked about the diamond formation being their best formation. And he's mentioned this before, but, I thought it was interesting. And the point that he brings up where against the best teams, we're going to go with the diamond. And time again, it proves that this is us. This is our identity. This is the Philadelphia Union.
That's our foundation, and you have to stay true to what you are. We've tweaked and tried to add some different things, and there's certain moments, Jonathan, where we can maybe go in at the end of a game with a 3-man back line to close it out. Yes, but I prefer to stick to what got us here, for lack of a better way to put it, and not get too cute. So we decided, let's be brave against a great opponent. I prefer to play the Liga MX teams, because it's a new challenge. It's a new test. I don't care if it's the best team, Liga MX team, or middle or bottom. I'd rather play them right now than the other MLS teams, because we all know each other already. We play each other a ton in the preseason. We play each other in the regular season. So this was a new opportunity and experience for our guys. I thought they had some good moments. I thought like I said, we suffered a little bit together, and I think we got better from the game. So I think our foundation is the 4-4-2. I think guys' roles and responsibilities are really clear out of that formation. We've had success with it. Having said that, though, we have to be a little bit sometimes flexible, and depending on the opponent or moment in the game and the score and all the different variables, be willing to change a little bit too.
Yeah, and Jim's spot on. That as this game went on, the Union got better. But I would argue it's just because of fitness levels, and a lot of that is because of the press, and it's the press and the 4-4-2 diamond. Jim said it there. The guys understand their roles. They know where to be on the field. They know when to press. They know the pressing cues. They know what area of the field they're responsible for. And you would expect that for a team that's run the diamond since 2019. A lot of these players have been with the club since 2020. So they know each other. They know when to press, when not to press. They know who messes up in the press. They know who messes up with not tracking back. It's very obvious to these players. You can blindfold them, and I guarantee you they would know exactly where to be on that field just because they know this formation inside out, every little detail to it. And Jim talked about, certain moments in the game. Okay, maybe changing things up a little bit tactically. Maybe you change formationally. Maybe you change something tactically. Maybe you're pressing a little bit differently. Maybe you're sitting a little bit different. Maybe you're playing in a low block. Maybe you're playing in a mid block. The Union can utilize those different moments, those different little tactics throughout the game. Absolutely. But when you go against the best of the best, you're going to see the Union play in that 4-4-2 diamond. And now maybe against a team in FC Cincinnati, where I do think they're still one of the best teams in MLS, the Union did seem to have success playing a 3-5-2 against them. And I know Cincinnati play the same, and Pat Noonan knows the Union better than anybody. He knows how to beat the diamond. And so I would expect if the Union beat Montreal, then the Union have to go to Cincinnati, play Cincinnati. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Union go with a back three once again against them, just because it brought a lot of success the last time they faced Cincinnati. Yes, they lost 4-3, but they went down 3 times in that game, and each time they came back. And a lot of great things we saw in that 3-5-2 formation. But again, the diamond causes issues. The players understand the roles. They know where to be on the field. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that Jim Curtin stuck with this formation. This formation is what got the Union their result. And at the end of the day, the Union, they lose on penalties, which is unfortunate, but they don't lose to Cruz Azul. They tie. This game ends in regulation. It's 1-1. It's not a loss. So yes, technically the Union lost, but at the same time, they didn't, because they tied 1-1. And this is a team, a lot of losses this season at Subaru Park, which is so surprising, but they don't lose many games at Subaru Park. This season, I think it's a one-off. And as you see this team get healthier, when you see more and more players return, I mean, the team's fully healthy right now. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Union go on a run in Leagues Cup. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Union go on a run in MLS play, just because these players, they know what they need to do. And yes, it's little sample sizes, this 4-game window. It's 2 wins against New England and Nashville trash teams. It's a win against a Charlotte team that's very, very good. They don't get a single shot on target. And then you come from behind against Cruz Azul, one of the best teams in Liga MX. Currently the best team in Liga MX. And the Union do well to weather the storm and find their way back into this match. And so quickly, 3 stars on the night. Got to go with Andre Blake. 5 saves. Fantastic performance. Don't have to talk about him too much. Kai Wagner, 2nd star on the night for me. Again, defensively, very, very solid. Offensively, he's always creating chances for the Union. Always creating chances. I thought it was great defensively once again. And then Daniel Gazdag, star number 1 with his 1 goal. Sorry, I don't have specific stats to give during Leagues Cup for whatever reason. FootMob doesn't track through stats. Maybe SofaScore does or something, but I honestly didn't check because I do want to get to Blunder of the Week, and Blunder of the Week is something very, very serious. And before we mention what that is, the other nomination I had was one Saturday. I mentioned it now 3 times. I went to union practice, my first time ever as media. So proud of myself. Yay. By the way, didn't mention this on the show. happy birthday to my dad. I know he doesn't listen to the show whatsoever. Saturday's his official birthday, so it's a happy early birthday. Went out for his birthday before I recorded this. And so happy birthday, Dad. And all the listeners tell you happy birthday as well. But you're not going to know that because you don't listen to my show. But if you do, there's a happy birthday in there for you. So I went to practice on Saturday. And I got to see the first 15 minutes of the union practice, which is not typically how the practices go. Usually you get to see the last 15 minutes and then talk to players after the game. That's how it's done when it's MLS games. And Jim Curtin then does his press conference. A little bit different this time, which is fine. No issues whatsoever. Jim Curtin goes first, and then the Union immediately go into practice. Got to watch the first 15 minutes, and it was good stuff. Good stuff, and I enjoyed it out there, just watching the team warm up, how they go through warm-ups, and then little passing drills, and then a little mini shooting games, and they broke out into 4 groups of, I forget how many players were out there, but 4 different groups, and it was good stuff, just watching them break each other down defensively and offensively, and Sam Dinneround looked great in those mini warm-ups, and got to see Damion Lowe out on the field. And so after all this, we get told by Leagues Cup, hey, look, at 11 o'clock, Cruz Azul's practicing in the stadium. You're allowed to watch the first 15 minutes if you want. And we said, yeah, we're already here. Me and Jillian Albany were the only ones down in practice. And we're like, yeah, we're already down here. Why not? So we go back into Subaru Park in 5 minutes. 5 minutes is all we get, and we get kicked out of practice by the coach. And it was so funny because I knew something was up. As soon as Jillian and I sat down, 2 members of the coaching staff kept looking at us, pointing at us, and I could tell they were upset. And so one of the coaches goes and finds the League Cup PR person, and they're explaining the situation and whatnot. The Leagues Cup guy, he's fantastic. No issues with him whatsoever. He says, hey, look, no offense. Yes, technically, you're allowed to be here. The rules say the first 15 minutes, you're allowed to watch practice, but the coach is not happy. He doesn't want any spying going on. They're going over tactical things that they don't want anybody to see. And I'm thinking to myself, like, does this coach think that I'm magically going to run to Jim Curtin after this and say, hey, look, I know how to beat Cruz Azul? No, I'm not going to go and do that. Put me on the payroll and I'll do it. But I just thought it was so funny. Not even 5 minutes and we're kicked out. And it's like, come on, dude, like, get that panicky. And well, I guess it didn't really work out for you because you drew, but maybe you would argue that, yeah, it did work out because we won on penalties and we finished second in the group. So, yeah, maybe it did actually work out, like kicking me out of practice, kicking Jillian out of practice. So I thought about that being blunder of the week, but I was like, let's not go with that. By the way, these guys don't get enough credit. The Union's PR staff, fantastic. I love dealing with them. They're so accommodating, and they're some of the best people in the business. Nothing but respect for Erica, for Nico, for Amanda. Great people, have no issues, just such high praise to give them, and so professional. They're again just so easy to communicate with. They're so easy to accommodate your request. And like I said, I mean, I've been around multiple different MLS teams, and I've seen how their PR staffs work, and I haven't seen anybody better than the Unions. And I don't say that lightly. I've been to 9 different stadiums, I think now. I don't know. I'll do the math. I believe it's 9. And nobody compares to the Union. The Union, top class. And want to give a shout out to them real quick. But blend of the week, back to something even more serious. Damion Lowe posted on social media on Instagram that he was getting racist messages in his DMs. And so that's going to go ahead and be blunder of the week.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, it's sad. It's not even not good. It's sad. It's disappointing. And people that send those type of messages, people that, talk the talk on social media, they would never say that to Damion Lowe's face. They would never say it to anybody's face. The people that hide behind these faceless accounts, I cannot stand those people. Why do people feel the need to be so afraid to put their profile picture, to put their name behind their account? It makes no sense to me. Like, what are you trying to hide? social media is not real life. And I get that. And people are 100% afraid. They are afraid to face life outside social media. And so that's why they hide behind these accounts. That's why these people send these messages, because they know they would never say any of those things to these players. They would never bully you like they bully you on social media. They would never do that in person because they don't want to face the consequences. And we see this all the time, and it's so common in the sport. It was a huge issue. It's been a huge issue in the Premier League. So many players getting racially abused through DMs. And it makes no sense to me. It absolutely makes no sense to me. It's like, why would you do this? What do people get off by doing that? Like, seriously. There's got to be something missing, something messed up, some screw loose in their brain that makes them think that it's okay to act that way. What's the issue? What's the issue? And I bring up the faceless accounts on social media. And I know this is about the racial incident where Damion Lowe, and he's faced that in MLS too, where he's had racial abuse. And I feel so bad for Damion Lowe. Why? Why does this keep happening to Damion Lowe? Why? He's just playing the game. And he gets abused by DC United when he was with Inter Miami. He's getting racist DMs. Why do people keep doing this? Makes no sense. But going back to the people with faceless accounts, I mean, those are some of the people that are doing the most talking on social media. Some of the most talking. They say such stupid things. And when you confront them, when you want to confront them in person, you can't find them because they don't want anybody knowing who they are. And they're cowards. They're so cowardly. And yes, having a little banter and everything, that's fine. But when you personally attack people's families, when you attack their characters, when you're calling them racial remarks, questioning their sexuality, like, what are we doing, people? What are we doing? You know dang well, if you're putting your name, your picture behind that account, making those comments, you're losing your job. You're getting canceled, as you should. And so I guess they're smart in that sense, where at least, you know, they're hoping they're smart that nobody finds out who they are doing this stuff. But it makes no sense to me. Why? Why do you feel like such a tough guy doing this? You're not. You're so little. You are absolutely so little. So that's Blender of the Week. If you guys aren't following the social media account on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, you can follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast. Go ahead and check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/freekickpod. Check out the Substack, or thefreekick.substack.com. And what else? There was something else I feel like I had to say, and I'm looking through my notes, and I can't even find it. Whatever, I guess it wasn't important. But yeah, I know this episode we didn't do live on YouTube. I definitely want to try to get that up going on Saturday if I do the podcast then, but it's also possible that we do the show on Sunday where I could talk about whatever happens against Montreal on Friday, assuming that game happens, and then we could talk about Union too. So maybe we throw all that together on Sunday, but I do like to try to get all this stuff done pretty quickly, and I know the game happened on Sunday, and here you guys are listening to the podcast on Thursday. Made you guys wait a while, but hopefully it was worth it. And I was not expecting this show to go over an hour long, but I say that all the time. But with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.